Hey guys, so since I finished reviewing every single Peter Capaldi episode of Doctor Who, it is time once again for me to make my tier list, where I rank every single episode he's made. And he made 40, which is pretty good for a doctor. Um, so let's start off with Deep Breath, which is episode 1. I think it's a very good starting point. I like the cinematic approach they do with it. They really make use of their extended runtime. I like Jenny Strax and Vastra. I wish they were utilized more recently, but it's still good to see them. I like the return of the clockwork droids from the girl in the fireplace, and how they use it in a slightly different way here, where you can't breathe. I like how Peter Capaldi asked the doctor his performance. He's not really sure of himself yet, and he's really confused about what type of doctor he's going to be. I think that's a really good approach. Um, Overall, pretty good episode, but not one of my favorites of his. Into the Dalek. I like how this kind of continues the plot line from episode 1 about like the doctor not really knowing who he is yet, um, and his chemistry with Cleo is really good. They're off to a rocky start, and I really like their relationship throughout both of his seasons because it's interesting to see them, a doctor and a companion, have such a strong bond, but also have such a conflict in the relationships. I I like seeing that. I think it adds such a interesting dynamic to it, where they're not just buddy buddy all the time. They actually have conflicts. As for the episode itself, it's okay, I guess. It's not like one of my favorites, but I still think it's a good episode. Moving on to Robot of Shorewood, which is the first stinkle of his era. I don't really like this one. I thought Robin Hood was kind of annoying, and the plot didn't really go anywhere. But it was nice to see Oli Capaldi cut loose for once, even if the episode itself was it was really boring, and I didn't like it. Moving on to Listen, is a really good episode. Um, it's much more of a creepy, classic Stephen Moffat horror episode of the season. I think it's great. The whole like monster you can't see but is always there is really creepy. Meeting young Danny Pink is really cool, and then meeting his great nephew or whatever from the future is also really cool. Um, I don't know. I like it a lot. I like the ending where Cleo goes to Gallifrey and gives the doctor that speech about being brave. I I think it's a really good episode. Moving on to Time Heist, which is also a pretty good one. This one has Keely Hawes from Line of Duty in it, and it's one of those Moffat like twisty, turny, timey wimey episodes. It's kind of influenced by like Ocean's 11 or Mission Impossible. They have this quest to go on, and there's so many like plot twists going on. And of course, being a show about time travel, I think they utilize it very well, and the memory loss and everything like that. And the fact that, like, obviously the doctor set it up himself so he could save that rhino guy with the two big things coming out of his eyes. A pretty good twist, and I liked it. The Caretaker. This one's okay, I guess. It's not really that memorable. I do like the antagonistic relationship between the Doctor and Danny Pink. Danny Pink's a soldier, and the Doctor's kind of an anti-rule hippie. I'm kind of more on the Doctor's side, to be honest, but I like seeing these two perspectives kind of hash it out, and Clara's personal life and Doctor life get converge. I always find that really interesting. The villain, not the most memorable, but I thought the Doctor was being funny when he was pretending to be the janitor, or the caretaker, as they call it in England, apparently. Kill the Moon. This one fucking sucks. I hate Kill the Moon. Um, I think the episode starts out okay, and I like the teenage girl that was traveling there, and the moral dilemma of the Doctor puts it Cleo into, about like whether you should save the planet because there's a baby or whatever. Like the moral dilemma's good, and I really like the argument between Cleo and the Doctor at the end of the episode. I think it's really strong, but the whole moon being an egg thing is very stupid. I hate it. Doctor Who has never been able to get giant spirals right, except for Planet of the Spiders. I stand corrected. That one was actually really good. But yeah, this episode sucked. The less I think about it, the better. Mummy on the Orient Express. I love this episode. This is getting a B. Uh, it's uh, it's a great, like, it's an intense episode. The whole concept is something I've never really seen done before, which is pretty rare in sci-fi. The whole mummy 66 seconds to live thing, the whole mystery about like who that is and why it's like that, and of course the the computer that is running this spaceship train is really creepy too. Gus, I think his name's Gus. It's been a while. um I love the Doctor and Clara's chemistry in this episode. Also, he learns that she can't stay mad at him because he just loves traveling with him so much. And I don't know. I love the setting of it too. I think all in all, like, there's everything you could ask for in a great episode of Doctor Who. Speaking of great episodes, Flatline, written by the same guy, who he has a pretty good record for the show, for being honest. This episode's great. I love the drawings on the walls coming to life. I like how Clara has to take charge of the situation because the Doctor's stuck in his tiny TARDIS, which is comedic but also thrilling at the same time when he has to like use his hand to crawl his way out there like the Adams family. Clara gets a lot to do in this episode, and I like when she's utilized well. I also like Rigsby, who later comes back next season, but he and Clara have some good chemistry. It's like he's her companion and she's the Doctor's companion. Yeah, this is a great episode. Moving on to In the Forest of the Night. This one sucks. I hate this one. All the kids in it are annoying. The whole forest plotline is stupid. How the Earth just does that, and then everybody just forgets about it. The whole like lost sister thing is weird, and it's like never really explained. Um, I don't like the. I don't like how the Doctor, I mean Danny Pink and Clara, despite being teachers, have to tell everybody that this little girl's on medication. Like, maybe they could respect their privacy a little bit. I don't know. This one sucked. I didn't like this one. Um, it's might be his worst one, for being honest. Moving on to the two-part finale, Dark Water and Death in Heaven. Where's B minus? Did I not put a B minus? Well, this one's getting a B minus. Let me get rid of F, because I can't really think of a story that gets an F. Oh wait, no, I did. Never mind. That comes next season. Oh, there's B minus. I'm blind. This is a pretty good finale of the season. Some of the character arcs handled, I don't know. Danny Pink's is, I feel like you don't really care enough about the character to really give a shit if he dies or not. Clara is really good in these episodes. The whole bait and switch was, see, like, betrays the Doctor, which turns out he knew she was going to do that for some reason. I don't know. I think Jenna Coleman does a great performance here, as is Peter Capaldi, and of course Michelle Gomez as the Master, Missy. Great twist, even if some of us saw it coming. I still think it's a great one. So yeah, this was a really good finale. The Cybermen are utilized well. It's nice to see Kate Stewart and Osgood back in action. So yeah, it's a great finale. Moving on to Last Christmas, which is getting a B minus. It's one of my favorite Christmas specials the show's ever done. The Dream Crabs is such a cool concept. I know it's been done. It's a mix between The Thing and Alien, but the emotions between the Doctor and Clara and the Christmas messaging, the whole every Christmas is the last Christmas thing, really hits home with me. I like the supporting cast, especially the lady from Andor was in it. She played I forgot her name, Shyla, whatever her name is. She was really good. And the Doctor and Clara, like, you think that Clara's gonna die, and at the end of the episode, it's that really sweet Christmas moment where actually things are going to be okay, and they go off and travel together. It's great. The way they say Merry Christmas to each other, it's so beautiful. I love it. Moving on to The Magician's Apprentice and The Richest Familiar. This is the two-part opening to season 9, and it's great. You have the Doctor, you have Missy, you have the Daleks and Davos. all in all, fantastic episode. Missy and Clara have really good chemistry together. I like when the Master is forced to work together with the good guys, um, kind of against their will, where they have like common interest in finding the Doctor. The Doctor's conversations with Davos are really good. They're always really good. I feel like Davos is such a good character, and I like how the show uses him sparingly. We haven't really seen him in 10 years, and I kind of like that because whenever he does show up, you know you're in for some good dialogue. Uh, but yeah, it's really intense. Like when the back on Scarlo, which has somehow been rebuilt, even though the Seventh Doctor blew it up. But whatever. Uh, and the like crawling through the sewers, and Claire was stuck in a Dalek outfit. It's a great episode. Um, I like when Missy pokes Davos in his one eye. It's a it's a great way to start off the season. Not gonna lie. Moving on to Under the Lake and Before the Flood. I think this is another great episode. I really like the side characters in this one a lot. They have such personality to them instead of just being stock characters. The timey-wimey plot is nice. The ghosts are creepy. The big Fisher King, well underutilized, is still really menacing. And the Doctor is great in this episode. He is so, like, he's really hit his stride as the Doctor. I love him in this one. And they kind of plant the seeds to Clara's addiction to traveling with the Doctor and how that has negative consequences. Um, I think it's great. You know, it's great as an individual two-parter. It's great for setting up the themes of the rest of the season. Pretty enjoyable. Moving on to The Girl Who Died, the Viking one with Maisie Williams. I enjoyed this one. I think it's a pretty good episode. Nothing really stands out with me though until the ending, which is very strong and sets up the later half of the season very well. Um, I like the Doctor's speech about how he's just sick of losing people and how he's going to lose Clara eventually, and it's going to break his heart. And then he realizes he could save someone by looking at his reflection and remembering where he came from. The Pompeii episode of David Tennant, that's where he got his face, and he's destined to save people at any cost. It's such a great moment, and it settles that like season and a half long mystery of where he got his face. So yeah, really good episode. But again, the first half kind of lags for me a bit. There's really nothing that stands out until like the last 10 minutes. Moving on to The Woman Who Lived. This is an okay episode of the show. I like the whole like how bitter Shieldo slash me slash Maisie Williams slash Aria slash no one has been over living for hundreds of years, and how lonely it is being eternal. Um, it shows how she handled it differently than Jack Harkness did. The similarities and differences, and how she just became distraught and disconnected from everybody because so they're gonna die soon anyway. From her perspective, it's great. The episode itself, I don't know. It's kind of boring. Not gonna lie, it's kind of boring. But I don't know. I like the character moments between the Doctor and the Shield. I think those are really good. Moving on to the Zygon Invasion / the Zygon Invasion, another great episode of his era. Unit is very well utilized. I think it's the best unit that's been utilized in the modern series. They haven't been utilized as good before or since. It's a political thriller involving Zygons, which is very culturally relevant given the whole like ISIS situation. It was very relevant at the time as well. How like the Zygons will kind of stand in for Muslims, or most of them just want to live in peace. But then there's these extremists that give the rest of them a bad name. And the Doctor speech at the end about war is a classic. I love it. It just shows like who the Doctor is. It's one of those moments that defines his character, his motivations, who he is as a person. Moving on to Sleep No More. This one's a piece of shit. Oh, wait, back to Zygon Invasion. I really liked Osgood. What happened to her? What happened to us? Where's she been past 10 years? We see Kate a lot. I love Kate, but where's Osgood? Anyway. Sleep No More. This one sucks. It's a found footage episode, and I guess respect for them to try doing something different, but it really sucked. Very boring. Um, the monster wasn't interesting. The side characters weren't interesting. Even the Doc and Claire weren't interesting. They're kind of just going through the motions in this one. And it was the only episode in the entire season that had no connection to any of the character arcs or anything. If you took this episode out and put it in season 8, nobody would even notice, which I think is a bad thing. Because what season 9 does so well is have each episode build off each other, not in a traditional arc way, but in more of a character building way. But this episode does none of that. Moving on to Face the Raven. I love this one. It shows the negative consequences of Clara's recklessness. I like the design of the street, the hidden street. Reminds me of Diagon Alley from Harry Potter a little bit. Like everybody in there is like this sci-fi creature and they're hiding out. But here they could be themselves. And the Clara gets herself into danger as usual, but this time she can't get out of it. And she tragically dies. I love that speech where she's like, I just want to be brave. There's nothing I can do about it. Just let me be brave. That was great and tragic. I know they're bringing her back 2 episodes later, but still, as it stands, really good moment. Heaven Sent. This is his best episode. This one's great. Just seeing what the Doctor goes through to save his friend is so traumatic. The castle is so creepy and well shot. The directing, the whole episode is a 45-minute speech by the Doctor. It's his monologue the entire episode, and it's great. This whole thing about like he just wants to lose, but Claire's always in his mind saying you can't give up. You have to win, and he always has to win. And it's inspiring, really, about moving on from grief. It's probably the most emotional episode the show's ever done. One of them, anyway. And man, Moffat, I always like Moffat. If you could notice from this list, none of the episodes I hated were written by Moffat. All of Moffat's episodes were from good to great, and this is his best one. I absolutely love this one. And of course, the twist at the end brings it all together in such a satisfying way. I didn't see it coming when it came out. I was like, oh, wow. The way the music swells up as he finally breaks through the wall is incredible. The soundtrack, writing, directing, acting, set design, everything about this one is fantastic. Peter Capaldi should have won an Emmy for this one, I'm being honest. Moving on to Heaven Sent, it's coming off of Hellbent is bound to disappoint anybody, but I still really enjoyed this one. I know a lot of people hate it, but I really like the way it brings together the Doctor and Clara's arc. And some people don't like it because it undoes Clara's exit from the show, and I can understand that. But also, it shows why he went through what he did in Heaven Sent. He just didn't do that for nothing. He did it to save Clara, and I think that's the most important part. Is the way Gallifrey handled a little, yeah, but still goes into the Doctor's character arc of he cares about Clara more than anybody, even his own people, even before the timelines being changed and everything. That's how much he's willing to sacrifice for Clara, and I think that's a really good I think that's really good uses of it because what have the Time Lords ever done for him? Nothing, you know. But what has Clara done for him? She's did everything for him. So I don't know why people hate this episode. I think it's great, and a very sad way to say goodbye to Cleo, one of my favorite companions. Their last scene together was so good and very emotional as well. Moving on to the Husbands of River Song. Speaking of saying goodbye to people and it being very emotional, we have this episode. This features the triumphant return of River Song, not seen in 2 seasons, and she is as great as ever. I actually prefer chemistry with Peter Capaldi than I do with Matt Smith. I think it's because they're around the same age. Well, so I don't know, I just feel like it fits better. The whole first half of the episode is kind of this fun Christmas romp where, she doesn't know who the Doctor is, and he's trying to make it obvious, but she just doesn't get it. And it's very funny. And then the second half, is so emotionally charged because you realize and he realizes whenever he's never going to see River again, and it's so tragic. But then at the end of the episode, Vinci says, "If this is our last night together, how long is a night under William?" And he says, 24 years. That's so beautiful. What a way to end a character arc who's been on the show for 7 seasons, who's had such an impact on the Doctor's life. I think putting this right after Clara left was a great decision because the whole point of Hellbent is him learning to let Clara go. So he's finally mature enough to let River go. It's it's great. The whole like face the Raven through Hudson River's song makes this great loosely full episode arc of the Doctor learning to let things go. It's great. Return of Doctor Mysterio. This one's okay. I It's not one of my favorites, but I still enjoy it. It's still a fun time. After the emotional trauma the last 4 episodes have brought us, I think this is a nice, easy episode. A gap episode. This is Naldor, who's briefly introduced in the Hudson's of a song. This is where he becomes a full-time companion, which is good to see because I'm a big Naldor fan. I like the Doctor and the superhero, the whole silly plot line. Clearly riffing on Marvel movies, which were really big at the time and not as big now because they're more inconsistent now. And I like the end of the episode, like how the Doctor, you could tell that he's still sad about River because this must have been right after he left her. And everybody could kind of tell something's off about him. And the subtlety in Capaldi's performance is great. And where he says, like, everything ends and that's always sad, but everything begins and that's always happy. So be happy is a great speech. And Naldor saying he's going to help the Doctor through his grief so the Doctor's not alone. It's good. It's like the first time Naldor had some, like, serious moment. And I like that a lot. Just is not just comic relief. He's kind of there. He's always there for the Doctor and vice versa. Moving on to the pilot, which is the introduction to Bill Potts, who's another great character. I think this is a pretty good episode. It's a nice way of introducing Bill. I like her whole puddle dynamic. Um, the whole, like, seeing her introduced to the Doctor's world by her being not a student at the university, but just some lady who shows up to classes is kind of funny. And I'm surprised, like, he didn't notice sooner. Um, but they have this different dynamic between Clara and the Doctor. Clara and the Doctor are very similar to each other, while with Bill and the Doctor, it's more of a teacher-student relationship because she's always learning things from him. She's still fresh and bright, and I like that relationship. I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm just saying I like how they're different. And it's kind of cool because the Doctor goes back in time and takes photos of her mom. She grew up not knowing her mom or her dad, and the Doctor kind of becomes a surrogate dad throughout the season, and I think that's kind of sweet. Moving on to Smile. This one's okay. I like the set design. They filmed this one in Spain. It looks really cool. Looks really futuristic, dystopian. The emoji bots are a little silly at first, but also very threatening. The end of the episode, though, it's like there's not really that many stakes. Like everything's tied up in a neat little bow, and they kind of just move on. So the first half of the episode is pretty good, but the second half is like, okay, let's wrap this up. Moving on to Thin Ice, another really good episode. Pretty dark when you have the little kid dying. Doctor Who doesn't usually get that dark, but it's good to show to Bill that, like, traveling in the TARDIS, there's a lot of tragic things that happen, and the Doctor kind of just gets used to it. I don't like how saying, like, do you even care? And he said, of course I care. I just have to move on so I could save more people. It's this sort of like Bill has this brightness about her, and the Doctor's a little bit more jaded, and it's a great dynamic. Um, Also, it shows like the Doctor hasn't had a black companion in a while, so putting her in the 1800s maybe not the best idea because he's exposed to racism. Though the Doctor punches him in the face, which is pretty satisfying, but still, maybe not the best decision, Doctor. Moving on to Knock Knock. This one's really good. Well, it's not really good. I don't like how the ending kind of undoes the whole kids being eaten by the wall thing, which is a great concept, but the ending really undoes it when they show everybody survived and it's good, it's okay. I don't know. I feel like that undoes all the tension building up throughout the episode. David Suchet is great in it, and his dynamic with his weird wood mom is good, but the ending kind of falls flat for me. But it's still enjoyable. Moving on to Oxygen, which is great. You know, you have zombies in space. What could go wrong? It's very intense. Kind of reminds me of the movie Gravity a little bit. How they're kind of like stuck in space, running out of oxygen. Um, it's a nice space thriller. How and also a critique on corporate, the big corporations charging you for everything. You know, you have to pay to breathe, basically. And if you don't, you're fucked. Um, Pretty good episode. And I like the cliffhanger, the ridiculous cliffhanger where he's like, I'm still blind. He says it with such a cheesy way. It's so funny. Moving on to Extremis, which is part one of the Monk trilogy. I'm doing these videos as like this trilogy, even though it's a three-parter, I'm doing it in three separate tiers because it's so inconsistent. Part one is great. It's very intense. It reveals how who's behind the vault. It's Missy, you know. None of us are really surprised by that one, but I love her dynamic with the doctor, how she promises she's gonna change, and they're stuck in the simulation inside of the simulation, and the monks to like run to see like how the monks are going to conquer the earth, and then the doctor realizes he's in the simulation. It's kind of cool. I like when they do mind bendy stuff like that. The Pope being in it is kind of funny. Bill's really good in it. I think Pearl Mackey's a great actress. So yeah, a great way to start off the trilogy. Too bad it only gets awesome here. Part two is actually pretty good. Um, it's like kind of like a political thriller episode. Not as good as the Zygon invasion, though, but it's still pretty enjoyable. Um, I think Unit could have been involved, though. This would have been a good Kate Stewart episode, but for whatever reason, she wasn't in this episode. But I like the whole like mystery of the pyramid thing and how people can't agree to work. Could finally agree to work together, but the monks want them to serve them because they love them, not because they feel them. It's like, monks, maybe people wouldn't feel you as much if you weren't so fucking creepy, but whatever. Still a really good episode. Moving on to The Lie of the Land. This is a disappointing episode. I really like the doctor's speech in it, though, and I like Bill's acting in it. And the whole, like, everybody's under this fake reality because they're under the propaganda of the monks. I like the whole commentary and propaganda, but the whole thing being undone by Bill remembering her mom is kind of stupid. That was very boring. I didn't like that. Kind of underwhelming after building up to it for three episodes. Whatever. That's why it's getting a C minus. Because there was still some good moments, but overall, the ending was kind of yeah. Empress of Mars. This one's very boring. Could you guys tell I'm not a fan of Mel Gaddis's writing for the show? I think he's a good actor, just for Doctor Who. At a writing standpoint, he's not that good. Um, I don't know. I've never been a huge Ice Warrior fan anyway. They always seemed very bland as a villain to me. Um, that just, I don't know. It doesn't really work for me. Very boring. And I don't care about any of the soldiers. So when one turns against each other and then the other one sacrifices himself, I just don't give a shit. Moving on to the Eaters of Light. Speaking of characters, I don't give a shit. All of the people in this episode. Um, yeah, the whole like, mystic thing. The the whole like, the mystic Scotland magic. It works better on Outlander, for being honest. This one's just very boring. I like the Nardole and Missy side plot though. That's interesting. But as for the episode itself, I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like the end where the doctor's like, "I'm gonna sacrifice myself to save you guys," and then they're like, "Nope, we'll just do it instead." And I was like, "Okay, that's the end of that." And then the stupid fucking crows, the reason they say Ka is because they respect the lady whose name is Ka or whatever. That's stupid. That's even dumber than, well, equally as dumb as the moon being an egg or forests just growing out of nowhere. Moving on to World Enough in Time and the Doctor Falls, which is the two-part finale to season 10. This was an epic conclusion to not just this season, but all three of Capaldi's seasons. And it honestly would have been a great finale for the show itself. In retrospect, it probably should have been the finale because the last 5 seasons have been pretty inconsistent. Um, yeah, like you have the conclusion of Missy's arc, which is tragic. How she finally decides to turn against to save the Doctor, stand up to the Doctor, but of course he's killed by the Master. John Sims returns to the Master is great in this one. He's a lot more menacing and calculated than he was when he was in the David Tennant era. I like this version of his Master way better than I did 10 years ago. Bill becoming a Cyberman, the tragedy that the body hole, and then whole coming to terms with it, and the whole theme of sacrificing yourself, even though nobody's gonna know who you are, you're still doing the right thing. I think that summarizes the Doctor's arc. So this Doctor doesn't really care what people think about him. He just wants to do the right thing. And without witness, without reward, that whole speech he gives to Missy and the Master is such a capstone for his Doctor, really. It's a great way to end all of their character arcs. Naldo sacrificing himself, Bill finally getting a happy ending with Puddle Girl. It's beautiful, it's tragic, it's somber, and you start to get nervous because you're like, oh, this is really the end for Capaldi. My favorite Doctor tied with John Pertwee. Moving on to Twice Upon a Time, which is his final episode. And given that Capaldi's episodes, most of them have gotten a B, it would feel wrong if this one didn't also get a B. If I even have room, let me see. Yeah, I have room. Cool. This one, I think, is a great way to finish off his arc. I think if they had him regenerate at the end of Doctor Falls, it would have been a little too depressing. So having this one to, you know, be a little bit more lighter is the right choice, in my opinion. Him meeting his past self, because he's went through so much trauma in the Doctor Falls and World Enough in Time that he just can't take it anymore. He just wants to die. And him talking to his past self and realizing for both of them, they should go on. They should keep going. It's a great message. His scenes with Bill are beautiful in this episode, and how he says, "I am Bill Potts. I might not be whole physically, but I have all of our memories. That makes me whole." Um, that's so great. And him saying goodbye to Hole and Naldo and Claire for the last time is so beautiful. Great way to finish off his era, because this era really has been about his relationships with his companions. And of course, this big epic speech before he explodes into Jodie Whittaker, and the show becomes shit, thanks to Chris Chibnall. But you know what? I'm not going to watch those episodes. I don't want to relive that. I already watched it once. I don't want to watch it again. So yeah, this is my review of every episode of Peter Capaldi's era. As you could see, I enjoyed most of them. There's only 6 out of 40 episodes I didn't like, which, to be honest, is a very good ratio compared to my 13th or 15th Doctor reviews. Let me know down in the comments what your favorite episode is and what your least favorite episode is, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Peace.